Welcome to It Starts Within, a podcast from Platinum Performance, where we'll dive into the health challenges faced by veterinarians and horse owners alike. Join us for inspiring stories about the latest advancements in equine care, treatments, and comebacks. You'll hear interviews with elite competitors, innovative researchers, and the veterinarians that devote their lives to horses and the humans that love them. At Platinum Performance, we know the power of nutrition starts within. Hello, everyone. I am Jessie Bengoa here with the Platinum Performance It Starts Within podcast. And today I get to have one of my friends in the studio, and that is Miss Hailey Kinsel. Hi, Hailey.
Hi, Jessie. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, my pleasure entirely. It's always great when a friend comes to town. And for anyone who has been living under a very large rock, Hailey Kinsel happens to be the four-time world champion WPRA barrel racer. And we get to see she and the main woman in her life, sister, round those barrels going 9-0 at the Thomas and Mack every year and many, many places in between. And so we're going to get to hear about all that today, as well as a special project that Hailey has had in the works and happens to have just taken place. So we're getting her hot on the heels of this first annual really cool event that she has cooked up, thought up, launched, started. And anybody who knows Hailey Kinsel knows that when she gets an idea in her head, it's going to happen. So come hell or high water, it's going to happen. So we'll hear about it today and dive right in. But I'm excited to have you here with me, and I want to talk all about it. So shall we clue everybody into what just went on and how it went, and you can kind of give us the firsthand tour of what happened?
We should. And I am so excited to talk about it now, having experienced it and survived. And truthfully, have so much respect for event producers, always have, but especially those with barrel race, because barrel races are a whole endeavor to take on, even as a barrel racer. And I've been involved in many event productions myself, whether it's barrel races or rodeos behind the scenes. But to be the title producer of an event is a whole other ball game. And so we just finished the first, and we joke by saying we maybe shouldn't call it the first until we know for sure we want to have a second. But I do think after this weekend, we can honestly say there will probably be a second one, probably next year, of the Hailey Kinsel Youth Barrel Race. This event was very special to me. It was something that my family and friends and I had talked about for a while, that when I'm competing at whether it's at jackpots, big barrel races, or rodeos, other than the NFR, there's not a lot of time to meet with fans and talk to kids. And I think that connection is so important in our industry. And throughout the regular season of rodeos, it's very hard because of rodeos' informal structure to set up the formal meet and greet times. So this originally started as a maybe I should just have a meet and greet day with fans in South Texas. And then I thought, I remember growing up in South Texas and having to drive 5 or 6 hours to any barrel race. Couldn't go to most of the large youth events that were going on. As great as they were, there were so many hours away that it was hard for us to feasibly do that. So I decided, let's put on an event close to home for those South Texas kids and give them somewhere to compete and have fun. And I'm not the first with an idea to have a youth barrel race. Even as a professional barrel racer, you've seen Martha Josie do her event and clinics over the years. You've seen Sherry Servy's youth championships. So this one was specific to me being a one-day event and being smaller and in South Texas. Little did I know that would explode, and we would have kids coming from as far as Maryland, Utah, California, Florida, all over for this one day barrel race. And it was youth only, 18 and under. We had two divisions, junior and senior, junior being 13 under, senior 14 to 18. But we also had a combined side pot called the Super 5D, where all could carry over to that side pot and all the times would be combined. We ran them all together throughout the day. So all the kids got to mingle and be around each other. This our first event was produced by Yeti, and we're so thankful for Yeti jumping on board because they also provided a welcome reception the night before and had all the kids come through this large line where they cooked out, barbecued all evening. I got to meet all of the kids and mingle with them and their families. and sign autographs and do all the fun things. And of course, that night we rolled right into barrel race stuff, hanging the banners and doing exhibitions. And I was on the mic for exhibitions. Thankfully, they did not ask me to announce the barrel race the next day, and my friend Gilly did that. He did a fabulous job. Although I will say I felt a lot of power behind the microphone. That was a fun position. But I was more behind the scenes as far as the actual day run of show goes. And I had the most amazing crew, people that are not only friends and family, but people that have known me since way before anybody else did and put on barrel races right there at the Rose Palace with me. And the Rose Palace being in Boerne, Texas, one of the places that I grew up going to events at. And I feel like I was trained there. Frankly's sister was trained there. That was one of her first futurities, and several jackpots and exhibitions happened at the Rose Palace. So it was very nostalgic for me and fun to put on an event in South Texas for those kids, but even more special that kids and families from all over made the trip down for this event.
How many did you end up having? Because I know we talked before this and you were thinking, "Oh god, maybe, I don't know, we'll see." How many did it end up being?
It ended up being 425 runs.
That's not what you guessed, by the way. You guessed
It's not even close to what I guessed. No, when I first told Platinum about it, I said we were setting the limit at 350, thinking we would get more like 250 to 300, but we better set a limit because it is one day and we don't want to be running into the wee hours with kids. That's just never a good mix. So that was the original limit. We filled that limit to 350 overnight in online entries. So we decided as a group that we could open it up to originally 400, that became 425, to try to let as many entries in as we possibly could because we just had no idea the response was going to be this big or this good. So we upped the original limit to 425 and eventually had to cut it off and say, please stop mailing entries. We can't take anybody else. So we did start a wait list and we were able to drop down a couple, but not many people turned out. They all showed up and ran, and that was incredible. So we are definitely gonna have to think about if there is a next year going to a 2-day event in order to allow more kids in, a little more flexibility on the in and out. But for now, we thought let's just dip our toe in the water. We didn't know that someone was going to be standing behind us, pushing us head first into the water. So that was a little more how it felt. But it was a probably a smart decision to stay a one-day event and stay limited this year, but, definitely if we grow, it's gonna keep growing, and I could not believe how big it grew just this first year.
I love how 425 entries is dipping your toe in the water, and you rounded up. I love that about you. You don't wanna keep fun away from anybody, but I know I remember going to the National Finals Rodeo, with my parents from the age of, like, 8 years old and being that little girl who idolized the barrel racers and had all the autographs on the underside of my hat and would go stand in line at Cowboy Christmas, and, I mean, that has to be a cool moment, and you get to experience it often, but this was your event, and you were getting to create this thing that you didn't have growing up in South Texas, in little towns down there where there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity, like you said, to compete. And you had all of these little girls, and young girls from all over the country that trailer in to South Texas to compete in your event, and that you get to be that role model for them. And, like you won't say it, but I will. You're an outstanding role model for them. And that has to feel really good at this point in your career to take a step back and be like, oh man, like that has to fill your cup.
It definitely overflowed my Yeti cup, that is for sure. I know that being at that event for me was special, not only to see the impact we made on kids and their families, and you're right, to give them the opportunity that doesn't come to everybody. Not everyone can afford to take their kid out to Vegas to meet the stars, and that's understandable. So to bring that closer to home for some. Additionally, I grew up with a bunch of horsewomen, and my mom was around uh, everyone at these barrel races that was from the South Texas area. So I watched Kay Blanford and Corley Cox and Liz Pinkston exhibition their horses. And those are all NFR qualifiers for those who are about as old as me and would know them. But one thing that was really cool that nobody really knew, but Corley Cox was working our alleyway the entire day at the first Haley Kinsel youth race. And for me, I was reflecting back to, I remember in the 90s knowing who that was when I was a kid because she had made the NFR. And so it was very full circle for me to have wonderful women who had poured into my life as a kid, pouring back into my youth event now, and knowing that I can't do that on a one on one basis with many kids, but hopefully somewhere they can find the right coach and the right role model to do that. And I can at least be the catalyst of that or give them a place to come. And on that note, I was so inspired by the parents and coaches who brought kids. There were women who coach 10 or 20 kids, and they brought those kids there to my event. And, they would thank me for inspiring those kids. And I said, "You are the one who every day is shaping those kids in the practice pen and turning them into these good humans." So I'm happy to provide the platform and the light that they can look at, but I'm even more inspired by those who are able to do it on the daily basis. So those kind of events just couldn't happen without one, the volunteers on my end, but also the parents and coaches who are that committed to their kids' futures, whether it's in barrel racing, which a majority will not go on with, but they can enjoy the hobby and they will just become better people because of being a part of an event like this.
Right? 100%. And one thing I wanna ask you about because I'm picturing her at this event is the a number 1 role model in your life, and that is Leslie Kinsel. And she had to be eating this up. And for those of you that do not know, this is Haley's mom, who is arguably as famous as Haley is. And I think everybody loves watching little Leslie Kinsel in the alleyway at the NFR, and none of those big old barrel horses push her around, and she is just the coolest. And so how was she digging it during this event? I'm sure she was loving life.
She wasn't doing a great job of eating actual food because she was working really hard, so I hope she was eating up the happiness and the joy of the day, and one thing she did not let happen was there were no crazy barrel moms pushing her around like a big barrel horse. She, definitely had her feet planted on the ground. She was pretty much in charge of the office and ran everything that direction, so we had a wonderful secretary, Ashley, but she was assisting her, she was running the stalls and RVs, and basically just overseeing the entire day. Definitely couldn't have and wouldn't have attacked that event without her. May have aged us both by a few years by taking it on. So sorry, mom. I will pick a nice nursing home. Just kidding. But she did have a great time. I know we had fun. We have joked about like, okay, we're gonna need a little bit more help, and maybe we should probably do a little less of what her and I both do, which is say, "Oh, I can just handle that." On the day and kind of look
And
for
so I'll say fibber. You're never gonna do that. Was
never gonna
that's a
you're
really
right.
cute sentiment, but no way.
It's cute. No, it sounds great, and my mom is gonna be exactly the same, absolutely useless when it comes to promising ourselves that, but, she was definitely the glue that kept the day spinning around without flying fragments going everywhere.
I love it. Well, she is just the coolest lady, and I think that, one of the neat things about watching your career progress has been watching her right alongside you, which has been awesome.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about the really cool opportunity that you dreamt up in this youth barrel race, and you approached platinum with because when you called me about this months ago, I was like, "Good on you, Haley Kinsel. This is an awesome idea," especially being a writer. I love this idea. So talk to me about this add-on, if you will, that you dreamed up and why it was so important to you to have it in there.
We wanted to have a little something for everybody at this youth race, and especially knowing that it was limited and there would be some kids that would be coming to watch and just hang out and watch their siblings. So we had a stick horse race on the side. We had various incentives. We had a wonderful sponsor jump in and donate lunch. We just had so many things, fun things throughout the day. The one thing that I was particularly passionate about, being the slightly nerdy kid who would have done this growing up. Yes, exactly. Hands are shooting in the air right now, but not everybody's going to win. And we talked about that at the night before, that that's part of barrel racing, and it's a game, it's a sport, and it's a 5D. You're going to fall in the cracks, but everyone should have an opportunity to win something. And so we swept in, and thank you to Platinum for sponsoring this, but we had an essay contest and two separate age divisions. So to mimic the age divisions in the barrel race, but junior and senior, whichever event division they competed in, They could submit the essay to be judged against the others. And when I say I walked out of there with a stack of essays this big, I am not kidding. It is wild. The kids that jumped in to participate in this. So my grader probably should have come up with 2 or 3 more of those, but thank you to that sweet lady who is grading those right now, and volunteering to do that and read through those essays. So we had, some structure set aside, 300 words, the word count, the type, the format, the cover page, just to keep it as uniform as possible. But the theme of the essay for both divisions was, "Tell me why your horse has a heart like sister." And, that's what's important to me and special to me. I know that even when I don't win, I know that my horse tried really hard. I know that she gives me her best effort. A lot of kids have such great stories with their horses, and we all know as horsewomen that and barrel racers that that bond with your horse is most important. So to give them a way to, express that bond to my team and tell us why they're happy to be there and give them another opportunity to win. So they will be announced next week. Like you said, we're talking right after the barrel race. So giving this week for the graders to take care of that. And next week we'll come out with the winners, and those winners are going to receive gift certificates or product from Platinum, which is very exciting. For kids who are so committed and so loving of their horse that they would put that down on paper. We wanted to do something to where they get something for their horse. And so excited to be able to give them that opportunity and just a little different spin on barrel racing. Maybe you don't feel like you have the best opportunity to win, but come and run and tell me why your horse is so great.
I love that. I think that's so great because everything in your world, you might be an extremely successful competitor, but everything for those that really know you, they know it all comes back to your horses. And sister might be uber famous, but she's still your girl, she's still sister to you. And I love that. I love that they have the opportunity to express that and know that they don't win on their own, that it's a team sport. And it really is all about those horses. And they do have wild try. And they love their job as much as you guys love their job. If you've ever watched barrel horses go, I mean, they are quite literally chomping at the bit to get into that arena. So I think that's way cool. I love that.
Exactly. And the best thing about the weekend was the positivity and joy among all the families and seeing the kids pet on their horses leaving the arena. That was my favorite thing. And my one challenge to the kids at the beginning of the weekend on Friday night at our welcome dinner was, I would like you to say with words and with your actions 2 thank yous throughout the weekend. The one thank you, and of course, if they thank the volunteers, that'd be great. But the main thank you to your parents or coach, your family, whoever brought you here, because they don't have to do that. And I know growing up with a super awesome mom, I watched the sacrifices it took for her to take me there. But the other one being thank your horse because they don't have to do this for us. Yes, they're trained to, but that doesn't mean, I mean, they're still animals. It's a mind of their own. They choose every day to listen and to do the cues and to do their job, and they love it. And most of them truly do thrive on barrel racing, but they're still doing it because you asked. And they don't know if you're going to win the essay contest. They don't know if you're going to win the 1D or the 5D or nothing at all. They just do it because they love you and they love being obedient and they love being your partner. And so I just ask those kids, like, please thank your horse. So regardless of what happens, thank him for the ride because it's not guaranteed. We don't know when the last one is, but we do know that we can be thankful and grateful and show that to them. So that essay contest was just one more way to be able to do that.
I love that. And that is one of the many ways that you are such a role model. And anybody who's ever had a close bond with a horse or been around horses know they're just big dogs and they love us and we're their people and they try and please you because they know the energy flows so freely back and forth between the horse and the rider, right? And we know that they're the best mirror that there ever was, for your energy. And so I think that is really amazing to teach these young riders and young athletes. And I'm picturing it in my head, Hailey Kinsel, and I feel like I want to come next year because I think it is so precious to watch these little girls out there and they just are the cutest stinking things that ever was because they match their horses' bell boots and their saddle pads and there's fringe and there's all kinds of stuff going on and they are just ready to get after it and they are so fierce and so cute and it's awesome. It's a neat thing to see.
Absolutely. It was the best thing I'd ever could have done. Probably the craziest, but definitely the most worthwhile thing I've ever poured into.
The NFR is gonna seem like cake now, girl. Wow, I mean, you really
You are not kidding. I am more tired now than I have ever been leaving Vegas. I swear to you.
yeah, that's fair. People are gonna be like, "Are you nervous?" You're like, "No, not at all, because I just put myself out there in a big way, and so I'm just gonna slide in sideways to Vegas and call it good." Um,
Exactly.
well, let's talk about that since I'm sure this is what America wants to hear. But before we talk about the NFR, real quick, like, I feel like a lot of us always forget that there are 12 months in the year and you spend a good, 9 to 10 of them rodeoing pretty hard. And it takes those 9 to 10 to get to Vegas. Like that is everyone's goal at the beginning who is a professional barrel racer. And the select 15 make it. Kind of a big deal. There's a lot that goes into that. There's a ton of miles on the road. There's a lot more, crummy fast food than you'd like to think about or admit. It's a tough life. So talk to me first about why you keep doing this to yourself. 'Cause it has to be a whole lot of passion and love because this is not an easy life. It looks super glamorous when there's a giant uplit American flag and cool, loud country music in the arena, and we're all like, "Yeah, this is the best thing ever, rodeo." But there's a lot of the unglamorous, in between those really cool, arena lights. So talk to me about why, this lifestyle still is inspired, to you, why you keep doing it, what you love about it. And then give me a little glimpse of the year and your horses and, some of the peaks and valleys that you went through to make, yet another national finals rodeo.
Yes, you're right that the 12 months leading up to it are so underrated. I people will ask, "Are you going to the NFR this year?" And it's like, I qualified. Yes, that doesn't mean I get to just buy a ticket. I don't get to just decide if I'm going back. A lot of things have to go my way, and I have to work so hard throughout the year. And I have so much respect for the gals that qualify every year and the gals that don't, because I can understand how one thing can change and it can be completely out of your control, and that means you don't get to go that year. So the journey and the work to get there is intense and it's quite hard. It's kind of like a marathon. You pace yourself throughout the year. You can be really on a roll and you have to ride that wave and enjoy the good things that are coming your way while it's happening. And then you'll go into a slump or a harder period where you just have to work to keep your head above the water and remind yourself why you love it. And I am so thankful, and it never goes without saying, for sister to be the horse that she is, because she truly makes rodeoing enjoyable. She gives me a chance to win every time I show up because she has the talent, one, and two, has the try and effort. She doesn't get in a situation that is unfavorable and back down, whereas a lot of horses do, understandably so. But that's what makes horses that excel at rodeo so great is they see a challenge and they take on the challenge. They don't dial back. And I have been so fortunate to have her and be able to rodeo on her and be able to be strategic about where I take her because I know that she'll give me a chance to win when she goes. So she went to, I think, roughly 20 to 25 ish rodeos this year. I myself went to 65. So that tells you that I was still going the rest of the year, but I brought her out of the ones that I knew, one, she would capitalize on, two, when she was feeling good, tried to time that and be very strategic about what was going to be best for her and best for me in the long run to give me a chance. The rest of the year, I did keep going and won money on two other horses that I rode throughout the year. One, TR Judge's stall, I call her Reese. She's a little bitty, super gritty mare. She thrives in the setups where the barrels are far from the fences because she loves to hunt a barrel, but she'll kind of shut down and be a little more reserved if they're tight. So I tried to utilize her in those settings, and she was fabulous. Fought some health things with her throughout the year, but thankfully have got that lined out. And when she did show up, she was fabulous. She placed at about 50% of her rodeos, which is a very good percentage for me for a young horse. But the other horse I ran throughout the year was BCK Spider Monkey. She's a 10-year-old mare. She's a little bit more seasoned, but she's very much a niche horse that likes setups where the barrels are right on the fences. And she's super honest, but has a little trouble finding them when they're out in the middle of nowhere. So I love her in those tighter setups. and she was really solid for me all year, but she was one that definitely when we'd make a run and it was good and we'd have, like, a tiny bobble and that's all it takes to take you out of it, I'm pretty sure I was 1 out of a check on her at more than 20 rodeos this year,
Oh,
which if you can imagine, that is really hard mentally to keep going. It's hard to tell yourself it's gonna come next time around the corner. Like, next time around the corner, you're not gonna be in shock, and that's just the level that rodeo has gotten to and how specialized these horses are. You can't afford a mistake, and I'm still getting to know her, so we're trying to line out those little details, but you know, you have to hand it to a horse like that. She kept showing up and she kept trying and did place me along at a few rodeos, which was great. But those one outs can really hurt your mental game. So it is that's the marathon mentality. Don't get bogged down. Don't get bummed out. Don't be mad at rodeo for the luck that it is because so much of it is a chance sport. And I think it was important for me throughout the year to distinguish between when I was making mistakes or when there were things to improve and when you just chalk that up to sport. That's just part of it, and you just have to let that one go, move on, go to the next thing. So that was what my full year looked like, spread out as far as money ones, spread out as far as horses making runs, about 20 and 20 and 20 between those 3 mares, but, they were awesome, couldn't ask for more, effort or try on their part. So very thankful to have those 3 and be going into the NFR with 3 healthy horses.
that's amazing. So, logistically, how do you work this? Because I think a lot of America doesn't really understand, how many rigs are going every other direction, while you're out there, because if you're not if you need sister while you're out on the road, how is she getting there? Who's on your trailer usually? Are you coming home to swap them out? Is Leslie Kinsel driving, through the night to go meet you somewhere? How is this working out? Like, how does your life work when you're out on the trail like that?
So for me, I am one of those psychopath control freaks that likes to be everywhere my horse is. So I'm not as good as some at splitting rigs and flying around. It makes me feel uncomfortable, not because they're not taken care of. I have wonderful people that could take care of them, but it's just more like I feel better if my eyes are on them. So that means I do a lot of driving back and forth from home, or at least close enough to home that I can meet somebody and swap them out. I have a wonderful gal that works for me that's helped me for the last few years and she normally takes care of horses at my house. But this year she did a little bit more of driving to meet me. One time she flew out to where I was so that I could leave for a couple days, and she took care of sister out at Reno while I flew back and met my mom, Leslie, at a rodeo in Texas so that I could run Reese and thankfully convinced her to go run her horse there so that I could make that rodeo and fly back out to Reno and run in the finals there. So, I did a little bit of bouncing around, but for the most part, try to plan throughout the year, especially the summer, which horses are going to go to which rodeos, and preferably leave them at home if I can't justify enough runs to keep them out there for that period of time. And when I say leave them at home, they're not just vegging at my house. Either my friend is taking care of them or they go to Catula to my mom, and my mom will ride them and keep them in shape and then whenever I'm ready for, let's say, sister to go home for a break, I'm going to come back to Texas, pick up that horse, leave sister with my mom, and piece back out to go to the Northwest and, keep rodeoing on that horse. So, my goal in that is to have a fresh horse ready to rock and roll as opposed to taking all 3 good mares all year long, because that would mean they're making a lot of extra miles without making the runs. And the trailer time and the miles does wear them out as much as the runs do, maybe more. So try to be conservative with that. And that means a lot more on my part. We're either returning home or just planning and trying to be firm with my plan ahead of time. Yes, there may be a time where I'm like, "Ah, I wish I had such and such horse right now, but would it be worth it to that horse to be out for 3 to 4 weeks at a time when they're only going to make one run? No. So sometimes it sacrifices that way. Oftentimes, I'm hauling a colt along because I always have some up and comer that needs to see the sights, and that horse can go along as the buddy. So, yeah, there is a lot of planning and a lot of logistics that go into it, but that is a brief example of how I prefer to work that out.
So, I'm sure that we all need to be looking for, like, every other year, Hailey Kinsel having a two-year-old pickup with 300,000 miles on it for sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Well, that is definitely some, time for self-reflection behind the wheel. Good on you.
Sure.
That
For sure. The good thing about me and what's funny that you say, what keeps you wanting to do it is, I still love driving. It's maybe a little harder on my body than it used to be, but I like being the driver. I like seeing the country. Like that part has never bugged me. I also oddly crave crappy gas station pizza and gas station coffee. So like if I'm home for too long, I'm like, man, I need to go to a gas station. Like I just need that nourishment in my life.
we're on a nutrition podcast, Haley.
That's
Gee.
correct. Yeah. Happy to let y'all know that I don't actually take care of myself, but my horses are freaking awesome. Like they're doing great, but I am nourishing myself with grease and coffee grounds that have been sitting in that container for months at a time. So,
Your eyes light up when you see a Love's gas station.
oh my gosh, you have no idea. Yeah, literally. The angels start singing, they jump off the roof. I will map a trip around the best gas stations. You think I'm kidding. I'm
I
not.
didn't even have to ask you, like, "Haley Kinsel, what's one thing that we don't know about you?" Well, there it
Love
is.
gas stations. Truck stops are amazing. Me and the truckers, we vibe. We are on the same wavelength.
Queen of the truck stop right here. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so you're gonna get to hit a few of those between Texas and Vegas. Let's talk about the big show. So we've got the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. Dead ahead, sailor. It's coming at us. And I mean, this is obviously a slightly exciting time of year, right? For those of us that are fans, this is the Super Bowl of rodeo. Hailey Kinsel is a mainstay. It's hard to look back and remember a time when you and sister were not there dominating the Thomas and Mack. And for those of you who have not seen it in person, it looks like a real life rodeo on TV. But when you walk into the Thomas and Mack, it is a extremely unique setup in the fact that it's a basketball court that, has been covered in dirt, and this is what they're running barrels on. So it is this tiny little arena that not all horses thrive in, because it is such a weird setup, for lack of a better word. But it's, 10 days when Vegas turns cowboy. There's country music on in every casino. There's cowboy Christmas. I mean, it's a sea of cowboy hats, in Sin City. I mean, it's wild, and it is such a cool experience. But this is the end goal, right? Throughout every year, like we said, every professional barrel racer and those and all the other timed events and rough stock events, everybody wants to be here. So to make it is watching dreams come true, right? And you've made it so many times, but knowing you don't take that for granted. And you know that every year is hard fought, So talk to me about this year. We've talked about the 12 months that it takes to come back to Vegas. But let's talk about like the NFR itself. You leave home, you're pointed toward Nevada. It's a different environment. I mean, you're never at a rodeo for 10 days straight, especially in an environment like Las Vegas. So talk to me about the horses. Who's on your trailer? Because there's a special one that might be coming with you this year as a backup. And that's a whole nother story. Um, but keeping things consistent, keeping your horses healthy, keeping yourself healthy, not overpromising, which we know that you're terrible at anyway, but not overpromising in Las Vegas. There's a lot of hoopla. So talk to me about what Vegas looks like, what you're still feeling this many years later, and the whole experience, because 10 rounds might sound like a lot, but it flies by when you're out there. So shoot.
It flies by. Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think it's so cool to me because it's been a few years now, but I still feel like it's my first year every time I'm preparing. And I hope that never goes away. If I get another shot, I hope to always treat it like it's the first year. And the good thing is you feel a little more comfortable with like the schedule and knowing when to be and where to be and how to get there after a few years. So I feel a lot less stressed than I did in my first few years trying to plan everything because I'll be honest, they haven't changed the dang schedule in 8 years. Like nothing has changed. So that's really nice. I get to build on what I already know, but it's still the best rodeo of the year. I mean, if you were to ask me what my favorite rodeo is to enter, it's still the NFR. Not that just anybody can enter, but I mean, it is that exciting. It's that much fun. I love the 10 rounds in Vegas, being in the tunnel and making that run down the alley. They'll ask you, "What's your favorite part of the NFR?" Making the barrel run. That is the coolest thing ever. You feel all the feelings of all the childhood things that you wanted to get there. You have to tone those back and choke back all the emotion because you're here to win and compete. But as a competitor, I love that part of it too. You think of all the great horses and great jockeys and competitors and trainers that have been down that alley, and to be one of them is officially what that means. When you earn your NFR back number, you are one of them. So to all the first timers going, I know you don't necessarily feel as like you deserve it. You'll get there and you'll be in a little bit of an awe of like, am I supposed to be here? Yes, you are. You've earned that spot. And so I always feel like that feeling is something I have to remind myself so that I can gain the confidence enough to be there and compete well. And then you're right, the rest of it is managing yourself and your horses and keeping yourself healthy. That's the hardest thing because as you can imagine, not only is Las Vegas maybe not always the cleanest environment, we are also in the convention center in Las Vegas, which has thousands of people circulating the same air. So, take your vitamins and wash your hands a lot. And please don't spit on me. Like, I know you want to hug, okay, but like, don't spit on me. And that happens a lot. So, but we meet the fans and that's great. We have a wonderful time with that. I try to limit that to a few hours per day because I don't want to get overly tired. And as you guys know, working a booth out there, the engagement with people is physically exhausting, as is competing. The adrenaline build up and crash after competing can be physically exhausting. So I personally try to manage my time to where I have a few minutes to get back to the room, shower, rest, take a minute, and refocus myself on now it's time to compete. And that's the thing that I love to do, but I need to be physically sharp and mentally sharp and ready to do that. And then same thing after a run. I need to remember to eat. I need to remember to have enough hours to sleep before the next day because it will come very, very fast out there. And then, of course, my horses and their health is main priority. That feels a little easier because it's a little more like the rest of the year in that we are always traveling and managing our horses' health out there on the road. And I do feel like once you get to Las Vegas, at least you are in one place with them. They kind of settle in, they get to know the place that you're staying. But the hauling in and out in traffic is a lot in Vegas. And there's always, of course, you're being in the desert and coming from Texas, we have to basically reteach them how to drink water once you get out there. So you don't think that that's necessary, but it is cold and deserty. And the same way I'm carrying around my water bottle 24/7, trying to remind myself to drink it, I am always checking their waters, make sure they're drinking. So hydration is key to keeping muscle soreness away and fatigue for those horses and having them bounce back because I want to monitor those horses daily based on where they're at in their physical side of are they ready to make another run today? I personally try not to go into the NFR with too much of a plan of I'm going to get on this horse this day. I ideally would love to start on sister. That's all I know. And after that, I would like to be able to say, is she ready to make a run today? Yes. Does she look, spunky and 100% and ready to go for 10 more? Awesome. If not, I want to be really receptive to that because things happen. They get dehydrated, they get sore, they have a slip or something like that. So, just keeping an eye on all of those things and being very flexible with them is important. Versus with me, it's being very structured. It's being okay, time to cut it off, time to go back to the room, time to eat, time to stop, time to rest, time to get off your phone, just close your eyes for 10 minutes. So yeah, I think that's kind of the ebb and flow of Vegas. Overall, it is you cannot let the stress of it overwhelm the excitement of it because it is still the best rodeo.
So let's talk about something really important because it's all about what's on the outside. How do you pack and plan your aesthetic for 10 days, Haley Kinsel? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that is not your A number one love is to prance around in front of a mirror at home and put on a fashion show to decide what you're gonna bring. But like, is this a chore? Is it something you enjoy? How do you plan what we're gonna see in that arena?
Gosh, how did you know that? I mean, how did you see what I was wearing today and we're like, "Oh gosh, no, girl, I'm gonna tell you right now, we are what, 10 days out from needing to head that direction, and I still need to go get a dress for the little back number ceremony thing." So yeah, I definitely need to plan better. We have a few functions beforehand, some sponsor things and some banquet type deals before the rodeo actually starts, where I actually have to look like a real girl, and includes the back number ceremony. So that is way harder to me. I'm a little more like the kids at my youth race when it comes to my runs. I pick out my favorite shirts that I've probably worn all year long, make sure that they're starched and ready to go, and then I just have like my matching bell boots. That is the extent of dressed up for me. I will be honest, I am not going to win the best dressed in the arena award. There is an award for that. It is voted on. Don't vote for me. Okay. Don't even vote out of sympathy. Like just don't vote for my friends. They look fabulous. But yeah, I'm a little more plain Jane when it comes to competing. So I try to just make sure I'm clean and presentable so that way if I get to go do an interview, I don't have broccoli in my teeth.
I love how high you're shooting here. Just my teeth. Hailey Kinsel, you look fantastic every single run. And the fact that you take the time to pick out matching bell boots, I mean, that is on point as well. So I think you look fantastic and you're real cute. So I mean, you have a leg up. Come on now. But I believe in you. You'll pull it together before the back number ceremony and look fat as usual. So yeah, it's pretty fun. And that I feel like that always, well, obviously it is the kickoff to the NFR, but all those photos go out over social media. And I feel like that gets all the fans riled up, like, okay, it's here. We're ready to rumble. Back numbers are on. Everybody looks so snazzy and we're ready to rock. So it's coming at us like a freight train. And you guys always, I think America also doesn't really realize that Thanksgiving looks a little different for rodeo cowboys and cowgirls that are headed to Vegas because it's like you guys scarf down turkey and a biscuit and then go hop in the truck that night and take off a lot of the time. So when do you leave for Vegas?
Yeah, thank goodness for leftovers because we will be packing our little turkey cuttings into some Tupperware and heading out the next day. I'm planning to leave on either Friday or Saturday and start that direction. But I have to be in Vegas and ready to start taking care of some obligations by Monday afternoon. So even though the rodeo doesn't start until Thursday, I also want to make sure I'm there in enough time to settle my horses in because that's on me and my mom to get them, locked away and make sure that they're drinking a lot of water and they're eating their food and they're comfortable. So that comes first. So we'll be out there by Sunday or Monday, the week prior to. For us, it's a lot more like 2 weeks in Vegas than 10 days. Everyone will say 10 days. It's a full 2.5 weeks.
It's a lot. It's like an eternity and it's a time warp and it's a very odd setting because time just doesn't exist and you're inside all day long and casinos by nature have no windows, right? And so you're like, "What day is it? What time is it? Is it 6 AM? Is it 6 PM? I don't know."
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
It's a very healthy, fresh, organic environment.
Definitely looking around like green. I need something green. I haven't ingested anything green in a while.
Yeah,
It's
some wrinkle cream and some of that broccoli. Order it right
Mhm.
up. Yes.
Exactly.
And you put in a lot of preparation to this. It doesn't just happen, like we've said, but I got a text from you, what, 2 days ago, and it's like, hey, here's what I need.
Yeah.
Been hotlin for my NFR order and everything's getting, lined out ahead of time. But talk to me about the consistency because you take your horse's nutrition really seriously all year. You take their veterinary care really seriously all year. I mean, you work with a lot of amazing veterinarians, the outstanding Dr. David Dutton, who we both just adore. He was out here at Platinum this summer, by the way, so I got to go hug on him, and he's just the nicest man and such a brilliant vet, and he's been beside you for years. But talk to me about, nutrition, and obviously we've established that you prefer gas station nutrition, but for sister
Not for her. Absolutely. For her.
talk to me about why that is a big deal, at any time, but also Vegas. I mean, you change your order up. We text back and forth 12 months a year, for orders, but things look a little bit different for Vegas. Why is that? And what specific parts of sister's performance, your other horse's performance, are you trying to really support and focus on? Because that's 10 nights. And that's a big deal. So they're going all out. They're in a foreign environment, as you are. So what's changing for the NFR and why is it such a big deal all year round, but particularly when you get to Vegas?
For sure, it is a different environment, and, just getting them acclimated to the weather out there, like I said, their dietary needs may change just because of the change in environment, and, of course, what we also have to keep in mind is we add a lot of stress when we get to Las Vegas because they are in a city, there's a lot more noise. If you've ever been to Thomas and Mack, you know that it is right by the airport, which means the planes are incredibly loud, huge booming planes all day long, all night long. So, just the noise factor. The warm up area is a little ways from the stadium, so we walk down a dark, kind of dingy concrete corridor every night to get to the basketball stadium. That is the Thomas and Mack. And once we get to the Thomas and Mack, you can hear a little bit. You're in a tent, but you really can't hear the extent of the noise until you break the plane of the arena, which is the concrete barrier around the Thomas and Mack. So we're stacked in the alleyway and our horse is easing down there and is pretty quiet. And then we take off and it is like 17,000 people go boom, plus the noise and the music, the announcers and the lights in Vegas. And I know that that intense surge of pressure. And then as soon as you're out, that pressure is pulled away. It's a lot for a horse to take in, and we're asking them to do this possibly 10 days in a row. So, I wanna make sure that before I get out there, not only are they hydrated, but their mineral balance is perfect and their, gut health is perfect because we know that when we add stress, there is going to be a little upset of the gastric system. So, I wanna be way ahead of the game. I start them on gastric support before I leave home. That's one of my favorite products that I can use throughout the year and do when I'm traveling, but especially when I'm going to Vegas because this is going to be more intense. They stay on the probiotic balance throughout the year, but again, make sure that we're on top of that. Electrolytes, that's something that's so important when you're traveling, making sure that they're getting the right salt intake. I have been known to empty a salt shaker at a restaurant and put it in a napkin and carry it back because I knew my horse needed something and I couldn't get electrolytes in time. But better option is the platinum tub of electrolytes that I thankfully have plenty of, and so ready to take that. And yes, Dr. Dutton and Dr. Charlie Buchanan at Signature Equine Hospital. It's Charlie told me the other day, like, did you get your Renew? Did you order Renew? Because you need Renew to go out there. And I'm like, yes, I got the Renew. And Dr. Dutton reminded me the other day, remember that one time, and I can't remember what year this even was, but sis got a little bit, I would say, depleted out there, looked a little tired. And I told him something like, she just looks a little dull and she's running great, but she just looks a little bit tired. And he said, Platinum Power. That's something that I don't normally use throughout the year. I don't normally need because she's coming back and forth from home and getting fully refreshed, going on a grass pasture, and she's resting and she's bouncing back. But out there, we don't get that luxury. So we added the Platinum Power on a specific regimen to make sure that she was ready to feel her best for those 10 days. Um, and then, of course, I'm going to stick with my usuals, which are the Platinum CJ for joint support and mineral balance and overall health, and the Platinum Healthy Weight. It's the oil and it's a top dress. It's an excellent source of fat, which is really important for inflammation, which you will have. The more runs we make on a basketball court, inflammation is going to happen, whether it's joint or gut or muscle. And so, definitely have that. Great thing about that oil is it's a top dress, so it makes sure that she will eat everything, and she loves the oil. She licks it out of my buckets, and so when a horse gets a little finicky on their feet or they're just a little upset because the planes are so loud, I just put that oil on there, and she's a happy camper. And then I also keep her on the Osteon and hoof support throughout the year. You know, sister is 13, so time is ticking, and you have to stay ahead of those things when it comes to bodily support for an older horse as well. So, those are kind of her mainstays, and that's what we stay after and make sure to have those out there. And building up to the NFR before I leave, I will also give longevity paste, and that's one of my favorite products. So between those two products, they have truly kept my horse healthy in her highest stress and highest intensity times. So I will start on the longevity before I leave home, build that up into her body and her system so that once we get out there, I'm not having to fight back anything that's already happening. I'm ahead of the curve on all of those little issues that might arise.
I love that. Putting out fires is no fun, so I love the preparation that you do, and that preventive approach is always, any veterinarian will tell you they would much rather, never treat an issue at all. So, call me for a good reason, not a bad one, and that's what makes them happy. So, Hailey Kinsel, let's round out our conversation with a little bit of a special fun fact for this year. Um, you have a backup horse who's, I don't know, kind of a big deal. Talk to me about what's happening on your trailer this year, pointed toward date.
Yeah. Sister is amazing, and I know that with age comes things that you just don't always foresee, and I would love to plan on, and I would say in the back of my mind, I am planning on riding her for 10 rounds. That said, I also know that that's not always the ideal thing when you get out there, and we just need to, like I said, be flexible. So I wanted to have a plan. And my plan originally was to ride Spider, BCK Spider Monkey. She's my mare, and I know her very well, and she's very good with walls. So she's prepped and ready to go. Reese, my other horse, is not going to be able to go due to, like I said, we were bouncing back from some health issues we had this summer. So that was kind of it. I was looking at Sister and Spider, and I was very content with that. That's just what I have, and we make the most of what I have. And I have this friend that everybody knows. Her name's Ivy Sabins. Used to be Ivy Conrado, but she's married now. So Ivy Sabins and her amazing teammate J Lo, Kay and Fab's Gift of Fame, are very well known at the NFR specifically. We joked that in our early years, we got mistaken for each other a lot. The only difference between her and I was she wore glasses, but she was also on a Palomino horse with long white braids, and she's got dark hair, and I was on mine. And she wore the glasses though, so that's our difference. But we got to be great friends in my first few years of rodeoing. We're on the same age and have the same similar life experiences that we were going through, and I think we just bonded over time. And having a best friend in this industry that's also a competitor is incredibly special because, we are competing against each other. And yet I always knew I had support from her and she knew she had it from me. And we've traveled together off and on. So I know Ivy and I know JLo and I knew how their things work that I've watched a million videos of them because we've tossed things back and forth. And JLo, who's owned by Kenny Nichols and Gail Barron, is 14 this year. Yeah, coming on 15. So she is even a tick older. And Ivy doesn't rodeo on her year round anymore due to her needs to be at the breeding farm, which is important because her owners are breeders, and she's been such a successful producer already. Every single one of her foals that's competing age is a 1D feral horse, proven animal. So that's amazing for JLo. But also, with age comes other things, and so Ivy doesn't feel it's right to be bumping up and down the road all year long, which is, as we said, what it takes to get to the NFR. But she has this amazing horse that happens to love the Thomas and Mack. She's won so much there. She's won the aggregate there multiple rounds. She is, well, I think, was second in the aggregate one year by point zero 0.02. That horse is just incredible. Loves the chaos. This is the kind of horse that gets very egotistical when people are in the crowd. She thinks they came to watch her, and I don't tell her otherwise. So Ivy reached out to me a few months ago and said, "Why don't you just take JLo with you?" And I said, because she's yours and that's your thing. You and JLo at the NFR." And my incredibly selfless friend once said, "I want you to have the best chance. If you need to get off of Sister, I want you to have the horse that you feel like you can go win around on." And she wanted her to have the opportunity as well because JLo does love the chaos and loves the Thomas and Mack. And she said, although I can't haul her all year long, why don't we just shortcut it and send her straight there? And of all horses to deserve a shortcut to go straight to Las Vegas, it's that one. And she's still to this day one of the top 10 highest earning barrel horses of all time, even without the incentive money and all the new things that have come along. So, incredible mare. She's in my barn right now. You want to know what makes you feel small is walking around the corner and having JLo and Sister staring at you like, "Are you going to feed now?" So they're both incredible mares. They're very different in their personalities. They're also similar in the way that they love their people and they love to run barrels. I've joked with Ivy that I will throw the glasses on anytime I need if it makes JLo feel more comfortable. I will do that for her. So we are bending over backwards for these blonde queens in our life, and I will continue to do it. But I'm so thankful to my friend for being selfless enough to watch her horse go back to that special place this time around with me, and I'm happy to be able to be the one to take her there. And JLo will treat us like peasants. She's very clear that she is important, and so we will make sure she knows that she is the queen the whole time out there.
I love that. I think that's hilarious because that is that horse's personality, and also, I love the friendship that you and Ivy have fostered throughout the years, and if anybody has ever spent any time around you guys, your love language is this witty banter that goes back and forth. Hailey Kinsel and Sweet Ivy Conrado, it's hilarious to listen to, but that is a true friend, and that's, a great gift in life, especially when you're headed into the National Finals Rodeo, so I think that's pretty spectacular that you're gonna have, these Palomino power brokers behind you, and it's set up for success. No pressure, right? Like you said, walking into your barn and seeing those 2, jeez.
Nothing makes you feel smaller, I am not kidding, but, the good thing about those mares is they do love what they do, but they also are very personable to you, both of them are, so, I do feel appreciated even if it's like, "Thank goodness you're here, I was hungry." They know it comes from me, they know I'm the person taking care of them, so that's very special. I'll never be Ivy and J.Lo, but I'm happy to stand in for a short time.
That's good. They cherish the hand that feeds them, literally. So that's a good thing. And I was thinking about it the other day because so Haley is buddies with our mutual friend Luke Branquino, speaking of witty banter, and just on his show, the Luke Branquino show, to talk about the youth barrel race and that type of thing, right before it happened. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, personally, what would really round out my NFR experience was for Luke, who is a multi-world champion steer wrestler and commentates typically during the NFR on the steer wrestling, is I feel like he should commentate on the barrel racing too, because I think that would increase the ratings and be very, very entertaining.
As entertaining as that would be, that people like me might never watch it again. But, I hear his voice enough, I don't need it there also, but yes, incredibly witty, and frankly, now, as long as we've been friends, he knows a lot more about barrel racing than most people give him credit for, so, it's an idea. It's not a good one, but it's an idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea, but it'd be something to see. So we're big Luke Branquino fans around here, you know. But Haley Kinsel, this is great. Anytime I get to sit down and talk with my friend, I love it. But to introduce a little bit more about you and your process, because it is very well thought out and very methodical. But I mean, well thought out, but thoughtful at the same time. I really respect the way that you take care of your horses, and you mean business in the arena and out of the arena. But I love that you're a kind person too. I really mean it, and I think that the influence that you're able to have on all of these next generation of barrel racers and these girls and young women that are coming up in the equine industry is a big deal. And I think that's spectacular. So thank you for giving us an inside look into the Haley Kinsel Youth Barrel Race, the first annual. I mean, let's not kid anybody. I'm sure it's happening again. So plan your stress and your extra microbiome support for November of next year. And we'll go from there. And I cannot wait to see, what you do in Vegas, keeping in mind that there's so much of what you do behind the scenes for the previous 12 months that sets you up for success at the Thomas and Mack. So America and around the world really will enjoy watching you kill it at the Thomas and Mack, you and sister, and potentially the one and only J-Lo. And we now have a little insight into who she is and what her thought process is running into the Thomas and Mack. We're all there for her.
Mhm.
Um, that's going to be pretty cool to watch. So it's amazing to sit on the sidelines and watch your success, my friend. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, much appreciated. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to everyone joining me for the ride and getting to talk to Haley today, thank you for being with us here on the It Starts Within podcast. And until next time, I'm Jessie Bengoa. Take care, all.